things at CBI because there are some major thanks to St. Matt's for hosting us.
Yeah, they have been amazing. They have been truly just
Yeah.
like a godsend. They've been incredible. All right, so nobody cares if this is in focus. So I mean, they're gonna have their eyes closed anyway.
I think we almost match. I have denim shorts and a Hawaiian kind of shirt.
I am very excited. I have had two pairs of nice like Birkenstock sandals destroyed by the puppy because to a puppy like
Aw.
leather that smells like your feet is like gross, but like that's like you know.
Having a dog is both brings you a lot of joy and a lot
Oh,
of
that's true.
stress.
So I finally got over to Instep and bought myself a pair of Naot, which are kind of like the Israeli equivalent of like Birkenstocks, and they are like walking on a cloud. I'm very happy. And
They have foam Birkenstocks. These are Birkenstocks.
yeah. But the Birkenstocks kind of like make you pay for a while before they get really comfortable. Like the straps are really like, okay, like I've suffered enough now, they're softening up. Whereas these are just like out of the box, they're like, all right, my friends. So to just, get everybody kind of on the same page here, I want to invite and encourage you to give some attention to your posture and to really feel what your body feels like in your seat. And as I've said before, if you have a sense that you can be even a tiny bit more comfortable and relaxed than you already are, then really give that time to yourself. We like to say that this coming together can start with a sense that you are giving yourself a beautiful gift. As we live in a world that so often equates time being well spent, put that in quotation marks, time being well spent if it involves being able to check something off a list of things to do. We don't live in a culture that tends to honor the importance of setting aside time to just be still and to remember that we have this inner life, these sensations, these emotions that are deserving of our attention. And also giving ourselves the opportunity to let go a little bit of the world of analyzing and judging and evaluating and planning and fixing and all the other things that we do with our amazing problem-solving minds. And just to sit quietly enough to remember that we also have this body. This vessel that carries us forward into the trajectory that we call our life. And that there can be great blessing in sitting quietly enough to remember our bodies and to just feel whatever the sensations are that come into our awareness from our bodies. So if you are comfortable, Just letting your eyes gently close as we sit. And you are welcome and invited to do that. To help to bring your attention more into your physical lived experience. And if letting your eyes be softly closed doesn't seem comfortable, you can just pick out some spot on the floor or the table in front of you and just let yourself look at that with a kind of relaxed gaze. So we have these words that come to us from the morning and also the afternoon prayer. From the psalm that we call Ashrei. And we say Ashrei Yoshvei Vetecha, which means happy are those who dwell in your house. Od Yahalalucha Selah, meaning something like they will offer praise and gratitude without end. So you might see what it's like to begin to allow this stillness, this quiet, to allow it to be for you, if not a source of osher, of happiness, as the text says, then perhaps a source of relief and release. Because for this next little while, there is nowhere else you need to be. There is nothing else that you should be doing. Nowhere else you need to go. Rather, by sitting here quietly, you can embody that beautiful word of Hebrew from the Torah, Hineni. Simply means, here I am. In this body, resting in this seat, supported by the earth. Hineni. Here I am. Not only physically, geographically, but also here I am with whatever emotions and thoughts and sensations may arise. In this moment, Hineni, here I am. And Ashrei, as the psalm says, this is good. This is a happy thing. So as you sit here, give some attention to your neck and your shoulders. And if you notice anything gripping or holding in that part of your body, without actively trying to change anything, just see if you can, as we like to say, see if you can bring a little Shabbat to that part of your body. Just give your neck and your shoulders permission to release any tension or tightness there that may not be needed for sitting here. Notice also your face, and especially all those tiny muscles around your eyes and across your brow, your forehead. Again, without even realizing it, we often carry tension and tightness in this part of our body, but see what it's like knowing that there is nothing to be communicated to another, that in this moment there was no one to impress. See what it's like just to allow your face to be relaxed, to let your expression be calm and neutral. Again, in the spirit of Hineni. Here I am right now, present in my body, present in my life. And so we have this beautiful Hebrew word neshima. Neshima meaning breath. Neshima, which is a close relative of the word neshama, meaning life or spirit or soul. And so in the most gentle way, let your awareness rest upon the fact that you are breathing. We're not thinking about breathing, just noticing wherever in our bodies, each of our own unique bodies, where the sensations of breathing are most accessible and apparent to you, whether it is in the coolness of the breath as it enters your mouth or nose, or the warmth as it leaves, whether it's in the flow of breath through your throat, or perhaps the rising and falling of the rib cage and the abdomen as you breathe, or some combination of all those things. Sometimes when we meditate and we hear the suggestion to pay attention to the breath, sometimes that can feel a little bit coercive or demanding, perhaps. So sometimes we like to talk about just taking an interest in the breath. To just notice this next in-breath and this next out-breath. Long or short, deep or shallow, rough or smooth. Just notice and be with the character of this next in-breath. We're going to sit here for another minute or so like this. And because our minds are the way they are, it is very likely, almost inevitable, that as you are following this kavanah, as we say in Hebrew, this intention to take an interest in your breathing, you'll very likely notice that your mind has wandered off somewhere else, that you've forgotten about the breath, and to know that that is completely okay. when you notice that your attention has fallen away from the breath without any criticism or judgment, just gently shift your awareness and attention back to how it feels to be sitting here and breathing. So we're going to sing together a little bit, as we usually do at this point. And we're going to sing that word that we've referenced, Hineni, here I am. And we'll sing it to a melody that some of us may remember. And if it's new to you, just hum along or listen or join in when you pick it up. So it goes like this. Sing it a few times. Hineni, 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 So, in your own time and at your own pace, don't rush, please. Whenever you feel like you're ready, we are going to just let our eyes open, and we will move into some of the weekday evening filas. Some people were nice enough to grab some books. Thank you for that. If you want the book, we don't have an ark.
When we get the Torah?
No, it's fine. I don't know. I think we're kind of facing the clock, but that's okay. Don't worry about it. So if you want to follow in the prayer book, we're going to start on page 4 with the Baruch Hu. And when I say please rise, it means you can, or you can just keep sitting. It's up to you. So I'm very relaxed here. So, if the melodies that we're singing are a little unfamiliar, it's because we like to use the weekday tunes for these familiar prayers. So we're on page 4. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. And on page 6, the evening blessing, Ma'ariv Arabim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro Ma'ariv Arabim, b'chochma poteach sha'arim, uvidvuna meshane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom u'mevi layla, uma'avdil ben yom u'ben layla, Adonai tzavaot shemo. El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv haravim. And on page 8, this blessing for Torah, Ahavat Olam, will, in honor of Pride Month, and also in her memory, we'll sing Debbie Friedman's melody together. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu lemadeta, Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shokveinu u'kumenu nasiach ketuchecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed, ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam v'layla, nege yomam v'layla. V'yahavatecha al tasir, bimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. Baruch Shem kevod malchuto le'olam va'ed. You can feel free to have a seat, and we'll continue over on page 12 with the V'ahavta. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meyodecha, v'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta b'am, b'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha b'derech u'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam le'od al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'elohechem, ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liyot lachem le'elohim, ani Adonai Elohechem. So we'll turn over to page 16 for Micha Mocha. I like the understanding that these blessings, especially the ones around the Shema, are can be associated with specific events in the biblical story, but that on a deeper level, they are about things that occur and reoccur over and over again in our lives all the time. So Michamocha being this passage from narrowness to expansiveness, from perplexity to understanding, from feeling in straits between a rock and a hard place and feeling like there are some choices and possibilities. That's kind of the spirit of the song. So, Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha ne'etar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef ele, nora tehilot osef ele. Malachutecha ra'u v'anecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam ze'elianu v'yamru ze'elianu v'yamaru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed Adonai yimloch le'olam one more time. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef ele, nora tehilot osef ele. Page 18. Sometimes you just feel like singing something one more time. So, page 18. Oh my goodness, Hashkivenu. A very concrete blessing about may we lie down tonight peacefully, may we have the gift of a good night's rest and wake up tomorrow refreshed and renewed for the next day. So we'll sing together this third line that we always sing, Ufros aleinu sukkot shlomecha, spread over us a sukkah, a shelter of your peace. Uferos aleinu sukkot, sukkot shlomecha. Uferos aleinu sukkot, sukkot shlomecha. Ya la la la, ya la la la, la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la la, la 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 la. Uferos aleinu sukkot, sukkot shlomecha. Ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. So we'll move into the Amidah, the weekday evening Amidah, with the Reader's Kaddish. It is on page 20. Yikadav yikadash shemei Rabbi v'yalma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chaychon v'yomechon v'chei l'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbi mivorach la'alam u'lomei amaya yitborach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'richu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Beautiful. So page 74 is where the weekday evening tefillah starts. And we'll sing the first few blessings together and then just go off on our own. If you want to rise, as is customary, you're welcome to do so. So yeah, page 74. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibur v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevi Gula Livnei B'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magyen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham B'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei Hakol, Atah Rav L'Hoshia, Morid Atah, Mechalkel Chayim B'Chesed, Mechayei Hakol B'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim, U'Matir Hasurim, U'Mekayim Emunato L'Shenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, U'Midom Elach, Melech Meimit U'Mechayev, U'Matzmiach Yeshua, V'Ne'eman Atah L'Chayot HaKol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei Hakol. Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh, U'Kadoshim B'chol Yom, Yehalelucha Selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Continue quietly. Yehiyu leratzon imrefi ve'yon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai tzuri v'go'ali v'go'ali. Good evening, everybody. Erev Tov. Thank you for being here. Thank you for rolling with this interesting space that we're in. And you know, I really do want to say how much real appreciation and gratitude I have for all of you who, you know, make the time to be here. I know that I personally get a lot out of this time, and that you know, it wouldn't happen if there weren't this sweet community that we have. I always like to say that if you get people to show up to a service and there's no cookies afterwards, then you know you've really done something. So
You made me hungry.
yeah.
Wait, I thought they were gonna be.
Oh, you thought there were going to be cookies? All right, next week. What? No cheesecake? Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. If somebody will poke at me a little bit. So, I go on break in July. So next week we'll have a break in July and then come back in August, which I always feel vaguely guilty about. Like I should be.
No meditation in July?
Yeah, no meditation in July, Jeffrey. I'm sorry. Okay. But I mean, it doesn't mean you can't meditate in July. It just means, you know. Yeah. So yeah, I think I should bring some goodies next week. I think there should be cookies
Whatever
afterwards.
you choose, as long as it's cheesecake.
As long as it's cheesecake. Oh my God. All right. Maybe I'll try making that recipe.
Whoa,
Ooh.
aren't you guys glad I came tonight?
Yeah, because otherwise, yeah.
We could do a potluck.
Uh-huh.
We could do a
Potluck.
meditation
Yeah, potluck. I don't know. I'll see it.
It'd be so fun.
It would be fun. I'll see, talk amongst yourselves, as they say. Yeah. So I wanted to. You will get an email with the blog post in it probably tomorrow. Usually Sarah Jew sends them out on Thursdays. So this is a little bit of a sort of preview of this blog post, and which is too long. So maybe you just hear this and then skip the blog post. I don't know. But anyway, there is a concept in Talmud, and particularly in the famous section called Pirkei Avot, where we have all these great little aphorisms like "If I am not for myself, who will be for me?" and "The world rests on three things," and all these things. The comment is a comment on the idea of what's called in Hebrew a machloket. So machloket comes from the root chalak, which means like to divide, to separate out or portion out or divide. So a machloket is an argument or a controversy. And there is this teaching that says, kol machloket, any argument or controversy, which is l'shem shamayim, which literally means in the name of heaven, right? Sofo lehitkayem, which is hard to translate. It means something like, in the end, it will be established, which is weird, although I came across a great explanation of it that I'll share with you in a minute. And any machloket, kol machloket, she'en l'shem shamayim, which is not in the name of heaven, which we don't know what does that mean, right? Ein sofo lehitkayem. Ein is the Hebrew equivalent of ain't. It ain't going to be established, right? It just doesn't, right? It's sometimes I've seen it translated as it won't bear fruit, whatever. And then they give an example. They say, well, what is an example in Pirkei Avot? What is an example of a machloket l'shem shamayim, of a disagreement or a controversy which is for the sake of heaven or in the name of heaven? And the answer they give is the machloket, the controversy between Rabbi Hillel and Rabbi Shammai, right? Right? Hillel and Shammai, who were, I think, the last of the zugot, meaning the pairs. They were respectively the president and the Av Beit Din, which is like the Speaker of the House of the Sanhedrin, right? On any legal matter, they always disagree. I don't know if they ever agree, right? And it turns out that Hillel is almost always in the end judged to have the correct opinion. But they say that was a disagreement for the sake of heaven. So if you think about like Hillel and Shammai and their disciples trying to work out how to be a Jew and what it was to live a good life and a meaningful life and so on, what would make that long disagreement of theirs, so to speak, what would make that quote unquote for the sake of heaven? Or what would you glean or guess that for the sake of heaven means if it's Hillel and Shammai are like exemplary of it? What kind of what makes that controversy like?
When it puts a rock in your shoe, when it results in something beautiful or something that you want?
Maybe, yeah.
I think we just debate the issue from multiple sides and get deeper understanding.
Yeah. I mean, one of the reasons that later rabbis write codes of Jewish law is because Talmud is often not that interested in giving you the bottom line. What it's trying to do is to show you all the different angles, which is why Talmud often preserves the opinions of people who, in the end, whose opinions are not accepted as authoritative, but you want to hear all those points of view, right? And they're looking for the truth. And also, in later sort of talking about Hillel and Shammai, they say that the really important thing about Hillel and Shammai was that they respected each other, that their disciples respected each other. There's this great thing that says, patriarchal society, it says that the members of Hillel and Shammai allowed their daughters to marry into the other group, right? It's like, that was like, okay, right? And also that when they were having a disagreement or they were arguing, they would always, I don't know how exactly this worked, right? Like after you, but they would always defer or cite the other side's opinion first, right? So there's just this sense of like, yeah, we disagree, but like we respect each other. So I say, okay, so what's an example of a machloket, of an argument that is not for the sake of heaven? And the answer they give is from this week's Torah portion. There is this week's Torah portion called Korach. There's this guy named Korach. He's a Levite. He is somebody of some reputation. And he mounts a full-scale revolt against Moses. He questions Moses' authority. He stands up and he gives this very populist-sounding argument. He says, all the people are holy, all of them, and God is in our midst. Lama titnasu, why do you and Aaron raise yourselves up? What makes you think you're better or more special than anybody else? Right? And it's a very appealing kind of argument. And then as the story kind of unfolds, and also as the rabbis amplify it, he doesn't come off so much as a populist or as a man of the people, but more as somebody who's got some axes to grind, and this is the way he's sort of, laying it out. And if you've ever, speaking of axes to grind, if you've ever, beheld or been in an argument or a dispute, and at some point it occurs to you that the content of the argument is not really what it's about, it's about something else. I've never had more knowing looks from a room full of people than just at that moment, right? So, I think they cite, Korach because it ends up being about ego and power and how dare you, and it's not really, right? So the one thing I want to share with you about this is, and there's a lot more, you'll see in the blog post, but is I found this commentary today on the fabulous, great treasury of Jewish resources, Sefaria, the website Sefaria, a comment that had what I thought was a great explanation of this phrase, sofo lehit kayem, that if something is for the sake of heaven, for the sake of truth or principle or whatever, when it's respectful and it's dignified, that in the end it will be like maintained. Like, what does that mean? And the person's answer was, sofo lehit kayem means we're still talking about it. We're still asking the question, it's still relevant, right? In other words, it was important enough that one can refer back to it and say, not necessarily one person was right, one person was wrong, but they were getting at something deep, right? And ein sofo lehit kayem would mean, like, other than a negative example, we're not going to learn anything from that argument because it wasn't really about anything substantive or important. So because I'm a nerd and a rabbi nerd, right? I just found that reading of its future, right? Its end will be to be perpetuated as it's going to be something that we're still talking about. It's still going to be relevant. We're still going to be wrestling with it. Which reminded me of, I'll wrap up with you can't go wrong with a quote from Heschel, right? Abraham Joshua Heschel, who said, at its best, the purpose of Judaism is not to give us all the answers, it's to make sure that we never stop asking the most important questions, right? Which I just think is gorgeous. So I wanted to share all that. And yeah, you can skip the blog if you want. You have 80% of it right there.
Still a thing.
Huh? It's still a thing. Yeah. What's fair? Hillel says, the essence of the Torah, when the guy says, teach me the Torah while I stand on one foot, Hillel says, the essence of the Torah is, if you hate it, don't do it to other people. He says, that's the whole Torah, everything else is commentary, now go study. So what does that even mean? And why doesn't he give love your neighbor as yourself, do unto others as you, why does he give the negative example? And we're still talking about that, so. Anyway, but most importantly, cheesecake. I will try. Alec, I'm gonna go back to your email and find, it was the Faya yogurt and the
I
yeah.
really wanted cheesecake, but I wasn't feeling
You have to
it.
send
It
it
was
to
good.
No, I'm not gonna ship it in from Israel, no.
I can make it.
All right. Well, are we?
Vegan cheesecake? Okay.
Are we gonna have a competition? Anyway, all right, folks.
Thank you. That's sweet.
All right, we got. You're welcome. All right, so closing stuff. Aleinu, if you choose to participate in Aleinu, is on the sticker or the inside back cover. Here we go. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, ha'tekedu la'yotzer reshit, shehu asanu k'shomrei ha'adama, v'hu samanu k'shlichei ha'torah, shehu sam chayenu itam, v'gor aleinu im kol ha'olam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, ליום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו 598 is Kaddish. Anybody have a name that they want to mention? I would like to mention Laura Maldonado, whom some of you knew, who was just a bright light and a sweet soul. And we miss her, and condolences to Jose, her husband. She was really something. So, Yit Gadal v'Yit Kadash Shemei Rabba v'Yalma Divrach v'Rutei v'Yamlich Malchutei v'Chayechon v'Yomechon v'Chayei L'chol Beit Yisrael v'Agala v'Yizman Kariv v'Imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevorach l'Alam v'Almei Amaya Yitbarach v'Yishtabach v'Yitba'ar v'Yitramam v'Yitnasei v'Yithadar v'Yitalev v'Yitalal Shemei L'Kudusha B'Richu Leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata ta'amiran b'yalma v'imru amen. Yehesh lama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. So this doesn't really lend itself to making a little circle, but we can sort of simulate it here. Yeah. May some of the warmth and fellowship and gentleness of this time stay with us as we move into the rest of the week towards Shabbat, and may we take some of that energy and give it back to the people that matter the most to us and to our world as a whole as well. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May the Holy One bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'choneka. May the Holy One shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May the Eternal be with you, and may you have in your life a sense of shalom, wholeness and peace in a world we so fervently pray, a world of safety and equality and healing and justice and peace for all who dwell on earth. And together we say, Amen.
Amen.
Beautiful people, thanks for coming. Thank you so much. Glad to have you
See
here.
Friday, Rabbi.
Can somebody? Yes, absolutely. Can somebody put the books back? Let me just. Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome.
I'm going to the yard party at 8:30.